lives and livelihoods, and that was followed by the Russia-Ukraine war, which is now well into its second year, into its third year, and more recently we have had the Hamas-Palestinian issue, all of which have impacted energy prices, food prices, and economies across the globe. Some economies are already in recession, others are in danger of falling in recession, but we will focus later on what's happening here in our region, namely South Asia. On this occasion, let me once again say to all of you that we have an excellent program over the next 2.5 days. We're going to be talking about generative AI. We're going to be talking about India's place in the world of IT. We're going to be talking about the future automobile and future fuels. We're going to be talking about drones, a technology whose time has come. So all of this awaits you over the next few days. I welcome all of you once again to this 2024 edition of the Asia Economic Dialogue. Thank you for being with us, and I hope you enjoy this dialogue as much as I think I will be. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Bambawale. It's clear that this is going to be like a canvas where ideas collide, futures converge, and change finds its voice. Okay, now I would like to invite onto the stage Dr. Raghunath Mashalkar, President of Pune International Center, to give his opening remarks. Please give him a round of applause.
Our beloved Vice President, Dr. Vijay Kerkar, Ambassador Vinay Kwatra ji, India's distinguished Foreign Secretary, Ambassador Sewa Lamsal, Foreign Secretary of Nepal, Ambassador Masud bin Momen, Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, the convener of AD 2024, I must say, the Gautam Bambawale, because this event would not be there without his leadership. So Gautam, our very special thanks to you. Distinguished eminence that I see in front of me, I will not take name, there are too many of you. Eminent speakers and participants from across the world, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to warmly welcome you to the 8th Asia Economic Dialogue. As was mentioned, it is the 5th Asia Economic Dialogue in a row by Pune International Center. On behalf of the Ministry of External Affairs, at the very outset, I'd like to say how grateful we are to our Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, for his continued support, continued guidance, continued inspiration. I also acknowledge our new partnership with ORF, India's globally recognized leading think tank, with whom we are partnering in many of our key programs now. Just a few words about PIC. In a journey of over a decade, PIC has become India's leading action-oriented public policy research think tank. It has very strong research verticals in the areas of national security, energy, environment and climate change, economic reforms, and urbanization, and science and technology and the national innovation ecosystem. We also have strong programs on social innovation, where we mentor and support social innovators from across the country. We always emphasize that Pune International Center is an international center in Pune. Our housing, the international Economic conferences in the form of flagship annual conference is just one of the many manifestations of PIC's global outreach programs. After battling for 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, which was an unprecedented crisis in itself, there was unfortunately no respite. The world was immediately thrown into one crisis after another, with regional conflicts in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in West Asia, and the impact of economic slowdown in many countries and the challenges of new technologies. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, seems to be the new normal as though. Our theme of AED 2024 this year is therefore geo-economic challenges in the new era of flux or era of flux. This era of flux arises due to several challenges, as we know. First, the rapid pace of technological advancement presents challenges in disrupting traditional industries and labor markets, leading to job displacement and skill gaps. Second, the escalating impacts of climate change, such as extreme weather events and rising sea levels, pose significant economic challenges in terms of adaptation costs, resource scarcity, infrastructure resilience, affecting industries ranging from agriculture to tourism all the way. Third, the income inequality within and between countries exasperates social tensions and hampers economic growth by limiting access to education, to healthcare, and opportunities for upward mobility, creating barriers to sustainable development. Fourth, trade tensions, protectionist policies, and geopolitical instability disrupt global supply chains, impede cross-border investment, and create uncertainty for businesses, leading to market volatility and hindering economic integration and growth. And fifth, aging populations and declining birth rates in many regions pose challenges such as increased healthcare and pension costs, labor force shortages, and reduced consumer spending, impacting economic productivity and fiscal sustainability. And despite these heavy winds, in the AD 2024, we wish to focus on strategies for growth, strategies for cooperation among Asian nations, and especially in South Asia. It is obvious that on one hand there is a great potential to enhance South Asia's resilience to external shocks and uncertainties in the global scenario. But on the other hand, there is enormous potential to unlock significant growth potential by promoting trade, by investment, by productivity gains across borders, leading to increased job creation, income generation, and poverty reduction. We can collectively address common challenges such as infrastructure deficit, trade barriers, skill shortages, leveraging shared resources and expertise to overcome barriers to growth. It will also allow us to access larger regional markets, tapping into diverse consumer base and expanding opportunities for export-oriented industries, thus stimulating innovation, competitiveness, and economies of scale. By the way, I'm a scientist. I do science, technology, and innovation. Let's talk about innovation. I remember that in 2010, for World Bank, I had authored a report on building innovation ecosystem in South Asia. I went through it this morning again, and I found that many of the things were said at that time are still valid. Maybe we need to revisit it. But in any case, integration, inclusion, innovation, and investment are the four pillars on which we can make our inspiring dream of 21st century as Asia's century happen. This year, we have a total of 46 speakers from 11 nations as participating in this conference in total 12 exciting sessions. You will see exciting sessions like impact of generative AI on organizations and society in one such. In fact, we can't do any meeting nowadays without talking about AI and generative AI, and we have the best of the minds talk about it. We look at the impact of the new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. We even discuss the emergence of third globalization, but our emphasis is on opportunities and challenges in creating a more integrated South Asia. Finally, I want to extend a very warm welcome to you on behalf of our beloved city of Pune. It's a great city of culture, of education, of research and innovation, and now it is also known as Vaccine City, as you know. This beautiful poem, normally it is unusual to give a poem in a presidential remarks, but I will do so because innovation is the key, doing it differently. So here is a poem that I like very much, which describes the great city of Pune eloquently. In Pune's ancient streets, echoes of Maratha valor resound. Culture's tapestry views through its vibrant ground, a scholarly heaven where minds ignite and wisdom's flame. Minds ignite and wisdom's flame. Innovation thrives as dreams and ideas claim their fame. In its beating heart, history meets innovation's embrace. And some of you had visits to historical Shanwarwada, I believe, yesterday and today. And Pune, at the end, is a city where the past and future interface. I might like to add a word because we talk about innovation. Yesterday, our Honorable Prime Minister, we had a historical event. It was, of course, National Science Day. As you know, the climate crisis is leading us to green hydrogen, new hydrogen economy, and India's very first indigenous fuel cell technology, where Pune participated, KPIT Technology, as an industrial partner, National Chemical Laboratory. They partnered to create a new breakthrough technology which is ahead of the curve as far as the world is concerned, and also everything, every single component is indigenous. That was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister yesterday. You must have seen the news. That makes us very, very proud indeed. I hope our foreign as well as outstation delegates will be able to savor the charm and beauty of our lovely Pune. Finally, looking at the extent of participation, the quality of participants, and that of the deliberations, and finally the impact of AED so far, some of our well-wishers have been saying that AED is clearly emerging as Davos of Asia. It's good to hear that, but I know we are not there as yet. But on behalf of our family of PIC, I want to assure the nation that we at PIC will do everything to live up to not only the expectation, but even go beyond to create a Davos Plus in years to come. And the good news to end, we have been holding these AED conferences in a good hotel like this and good premises like this. But next year, I want to extend in advance an invitation to you, February 2025, when we hold AED 2025. I'm very happy to say that our new magnificent campus is coming up and it will be ready to welcome you. It is not too far from here, and it's going to be in the midst of an intellectual hub surrounding 12 great institutions of education, research, innovation, and enterprise. Again, a very, very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mashalkar. Ladies and gentlemen, who more fitting to hear from than the author of the widely acclaimed best-selling book, The India Way, Strategies for an Uncertain World, and recipient of the Padma Shri Award. I am, of course, talking about a huge supporter who was here with us in person last year. It's the External Affairs Minister, Jai Shankar. So if we could have his video played, please.
Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, Foreign Secretary Vinay Kwatra, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear students. I am truly delighted to address the 8th Asia Economic Dialogue. In the years that have passed, I note that the dialogue has emerged as a prominent forum on geoeconomics. This edition focuses very appropriately on the geoeconomic challenges of our times. Today, these broadly fall into three categories. One is the supply chain challenge that has arisen from a particular economic hardwiring created by the globalization era. Whether it is finished products, intermediates or components, the world is dangerously dependent on a limited number of suppliers. Even as importers, the production centers have built their own sourcing chains. How to introduce greater resilience and reliability is today central to de-risking the global economy. All of us need more options and must work to create them. The second is the technology challenge, which grows by the day given our reliance on it for more aspects of our daily life. The digital era has given it an altogether different connotation because it is so intrusive. It is not just our interests that are at stake, but often the most personal of our decisions and choices. Such an era demands more trust and transparency. But in fact, we are seeing the reverse where technology providers are concerned. The third is the challenge of over-concentrations stemming from the nature of globalization. They are heightened by unpredictability and opaqueness. We discovered this most sharply during the COVID period. But from time to time, we are also reminded when market dominance is weaponized. For the Global South, this is particularly serious given the extent of its dependence. These three phenomena have come together particularly impactfully when we consider the evolution of critical and emerging technologies. And we all know that this is indeed the era of AI, of EVs, chips, green and clean technologies. What we are confronting is no longer a matter of comparative economic advantage, if it ever was. We are actually talking about the future of the global order. Where do the solutions lie? There are no easy answers, nor indeed a limited number of them. To create a more safe, secure and cooperative world, we clearly need greater international cooperation. Only that can serve to mitigate unilateral demands, economic domination or technology assertions. For India, this means moving across a broad front of domains that all contribute to comprehensive national power. It requires a massive upgrade of our skills base. It suggests an environment that promotes startups and talent. It will benefit from easier to do business and a modern infrastructure. But most of all, it demands robust manufacturing that alone can provide the foundation for technology development. As the most populous country that will be the third largest economy very soon, our goals and ambitions cannot be determined by the goodwill of others. We must build deep national strengths during the Amrit Kaal that will drive the transition towards becoming a developed economy and a leading power. This is the vision of the Modi government, and our initiatives and programs of the last decade are aimed to this very end. Perhaps there is no better audience to appreciate it than one in Pune, which has such a long record of industrial manufacturing. I thank you all for your attention and wish you productive deliberation.
I think the Minister has set the benchmark for all of our speakers and for all of you to help India develop in the way he suggested. Okay, to kick things off then, we have a session on promoting economic integration in South Asia. And I'm delighted to welcome Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, the convener of AED. Could I invite you to the stage, please? Please give him a big round of applause. Ambassador Bambawale's journey began in the corridors of China Affairs at the Ministry of External Affairs. His path led him to the pivotal positions in Berlin, Beijing, and Washington, D.C. As Consul General in Guangzhou and Ambassador to Bhutan, he etched lasting imprints on East Asian relations. And today he stands before us, a bridge builder, a diplomat, and a visionary. And I'd like to welcome onto the stage Ambassador Vinay Mohan Kwatra, Foreign Secretary, Government of India. Please give him a big round of applause. With 32 years of service, Ambassador Quatra's expertise spans continents. From ambassador to France and Nepal to heading the Americas division, he has navigated the intricate currents of international relations. Today he brings his wisdom to our table where India's interests converge with global aspirations. I'd also like to welcome Ambassador Sewa Lamsal. Please give her a big round of applause. History was made on the 15th of December 2023 when Sewa Lamsal became Nepal's first female foreign secretary. Her two-decade-long journey from ambassador to Pakistan to deputy permanent representative to the UN speaks of resilience, leadership, and a commitment to diplomacy. She stands as a beacon for all aspiring diplomats. Ambassador, welcome. And finally, Ambassador Masud bin Momen, Foreign Secretary, Bangladesh. Please give him a big round of applause. Notably, Ambassador Momen served as Bangladesh's ambassador to the UN, Japan, and Italy, with a career spanning various diplomatic capacities, including roles in New Delhi, Kathmandu, and Islamabad. His leadership and expertise persist in molding Bangladesh's foreign policy on the global platform, reflected in his ongoing impact in diplomatic services. So together, we delve into the heart of economic integration. Remember, our neighbors are not distant strangers. They are our immediate family. Their prosperity is our prosperity. And let this session ignite ideas, forge connections, and set the stage for a more integrated, resilient South Asia. Ambassador Gautam, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vandana, and thank you to the three dignitaries on stage. Let's have another round of applause for the three foreign secretaries of India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. Ambassador Kwatra, perhaps I should start with you. Let me first ask you to deliver some opening remarks as the driving force behind this conference. The Ministry of External Affairs has always been very supportive of our efforts. But also let me bundle that question with the issue of geoeconomics being in a state of flux. How has India come through the crises, the multiple crises that we have experienced over the last few years? So let me ask you on both those issues to give us your views. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gautam, if you permit, I would start by recognizing the President of the Pune International Center, Dr. Mashilkar, Vice President Dr. Vijay Kelkar, Ambassador Lata Reddy, my former boss, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale himself, my colleagues on the panel, Foreign Secretary Sewa Lamsal of Nepal and Foreign Secretary Momen of Bangladesh, other serving and retired senior officials of Government of India present here this afternoon, my colleagues from the Ministry, Secretary Kumaran and Joint Secretary Raghu. First of all, a big thank you to the organizers of the Pune International Center for giving me and the ministry this opportunity to speak to this distinguished gathering in Pune. I last visited Pune roughly 41 years ago, I think sometime way back in 81, 82. I have aged, city has modernized, so I really can't position the places that I saw 41 years ago very clearly. But this morning had an opportunity to go around the town, and it was wonderful, receptive city that I experienced. I think the remarks that the Honorable External Affairs Minister made in his video address and the sketch of challenges that Dr. Mashelkar outlined in his remarks, I think that clearly broadly forms the framework of challenges, if you call them challenges in that respect, that we face. I could decipher 4 of them very clearly from Minister's remarks, which were essentially the supply chain challenge 1, technology challenge. I would also, of course, like to see the opportunities on the side of technology also. I see that in the program you're talking about generative intelligence tomorrow, which is a very fascinating field of opportunities which are there. Overcrowding, overconcentration of supply chains, the 3rd. Market dominance, whether it is of products, services or technology, 4th. And the challenges that Dr. Mashelkar listed, job disruptions, global mobility disruption, I would rather call it, the climate change and the associated challenges, income inequalities, trade tensions, cross-border investment-related issues, and the aging population. Somewhere along this list, if you allow, I would also mention the one which we all experienced, which was the once-in-century pandemic. The kind of economic contraction that the COVID pandemic caused globally, the kind of deceleration in the economic growth that it caused, the demand destruction of imported products that it caused, presented a kind of, as I said, once in a century kind of challenge, and a challenge from which several economies of the world are yet to fully recover. Speaking of it in our own context, we are all aware of the human tragedy and the human cost and the economic cost that we faced because of COVID in the country, but also the resilience of the country to bounce back after that pandemic and recover the way in which we have recovered. When we talk of geoeconomics and the global flux, essentially, yes, there is a framework of reference of challenges from which we can look at, especially if you look at conflicts, whether it is the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict or the conflict in Gaza and the associated disruptions caused by that, whether it is food, fuel, fertilizer, supply chain insecurities, cost of crude, cost of energy, in some cases cost of capital going up. Yes, that is definitely one frame of reference in which we can look at, and we have to, because there is a strong mitigation angle required there by each country. But I think geoeconomics in many ways, especially in a state of flux, also presents a certain set of opportunities for, especially for countries like India. And I will take a tangent and draw it to the point which the minister mentioned, that when globally the countries are looking for one country risk diversification from particular geographies where the supply chains are concentrated, where the market access is leveraged or weaponized, where whether it is brownfield or it is greenfield, capital is looking for reliable destinations which can offer them strong returns on the equity. If you triangulate those variables, you will find that this translates into and has been benefited by immensely to the Indian economy and for India. So while I can draw a comparative matrix going back to 2014, but if you were to look at simply the post-COVID economic growth patterns, I wouldn't say even year by even if you look at quarter by quarter that we have registered, they tell a story in themselves, those numbers. And that story is not just of headline numbers. Those everybody knows. I mean, we were 10th largest in 2014. We became 5th largest last year. We are aiming to be 3rd largest in 3 years' time from now. And if all goes well, the current 3.7 trillion GDP of India could well be 7.3 trillion by the end of 2030. So if you look at those headline numbers, and particularly if you combine them with two very important other matrices which are crucial to keep in mind when it comes to economic growth stories. One, a fairly strong control over inflation. The average yearly inflation figure roughly around, don't hold me to these statistics, but roughly around 5% for last 10 years. The years preceding that were hovering between 8 to 9%. The second number which is important to keep in mind is in terms of how the world looks at us and how that perception and assessment of India translates into actual evidence. And the strongest evidence of that is the FDI inflows into the Indian economy. I won't even talk of portfolio flows because that's a different kind of capital. But FDI flows which from 2014 till now have been roughly to the tune of close to $600 billion. And the beauty of it is that a large chunk, and substantial chunk of it, has actually come post-COVID. So it tells you how it's a manifestation of how world assesses India in terms of opportunity, not just opportunity arising out of political and policy stability, but also opportunity which for them is a sheer economic and business opportunity. And policy and political stability flows directly out of that. I would also mention one more thing which is beyond the headline numbers, that if one was to analyze India's economic growth story of last 10 years, I think one should look at the very comprehensive nature of the drivers of these growth and the end objectives that we have so far been able to achieve, and look forward to kind of building on them going forward. So if you were to look at the entire space of infrastructure, you can take each piece of infrastructure and spend a full day of discussing various elements of it. But just look at the airports, the railway sector, the roads, and the port infrastructure. You're all aware of the numbers, but we are expecting from roughly 70 odd airports pre-2014 to already at 142 airports and maybe 70 more in pipeline. So looking at that. Second crucial part of which links directly to infrastructure is the logistics. The extent of logistics load onto the GDP is very important to keep in mind if our journey is to continue, and Prime Minister is very strongly focused on it. So if you look at the National Logistics Policy, which was launched recently, our target is to move logistics cost to roughly 8 to 9% of the GDP by 2030, which is what the global benchmarks are, which is what we experience in the developed countries. Current costings of logistics cost to the GDP are on the higher side. Now, the extent of economic gain, the efficiency gain that unleashes within the economy, and not just in our own national economy, but across the entire region, because of the logistical chains that are there throughout the region, is something to be kept in mind. 3, the digital intensity of economic growth. So the digital public infrastructure, it is very easy to kind of take it as something which comes to you, delivered in a package, and as a user case, we benefit from it. But there is a very strong visionary element of digital public infrastructure that is behind this in terms of Prime Minister's vision. And that is what is making it pretty much an ubiquitous thing in terms of whichever sector of economy you look at it. Combine this with one more element, which is a strong external element for us to focus on, which is how the world looks at the leadership of the country, the politics of the country, the policy stability of the country, and its orientation. I think the world clearly sees in our Prime Minister a very strong leader, a leader committed to national growth, a leader also, as the Master of Ceremony just mentioned, looks at the regional prosperity inherently linked to the national economic growth. And I think world not just sees it for what the leader is, but also assesses that through the policies that are announced and policies that we see, whether it is in our neighborhood, and we can come to that and speak about that in detail in terms of neighborhood first policy, or it is in terms of what we are doing within the country, which has very strong externalities of benefit for the foreign participants. I think all this comes together in a package that presents a picture of strength, picture of hope and optimism, picture of evidence-based growth story, which is for the national good, but also a story in which the international community, particularly the international business community, sees a very, very strong benefit in this. I think let me stop here for now and come back to you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kwatra. I'd like to turn to you now, Ambassador Lamsal, and ask you a similar question, which is, how is the Nepalese economy doing? But before you come to that, let me ask you, is this your first visit to Pune? You've been around the city in this morning. What are your impressions? What impressions will you take back with you to Kathmandu? And then tell us about how the Nepalese economy is doing.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by extending my sincere thanks to the host of this event, President of Pune International Center, Vice President of Pune International Center, Convenor of AED 2024, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohan Kwatra Saab, Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me respond to your question that I came to New Delhi and then I had good meetings. I paid a courtesy call on Honorable External Affairs Minister and I had good meeting with the Foreign Secretary of India. And yesterday I just arrived, and then this morning I visited Shaniwarwada, a very historic place of Pune. And I'm thrilled to see that place very magnificent place. I heard a lot about that place. And then again, I had another opportunity to visit Symbiosis International Center this morning, where our over 700 students are studying there. And this is another place of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in real terms. We talk a lot of talks about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but this is the place where you can see what is really mean Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I'm really impressed, and then thank you very much for this arrangement also. To your questions, yes, I agree with the panelists. The Master of Ceremonies, she set the stage very well, and also the President of Pune International Center, he also articulated so many issues, and then yourself, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale. Yes, it was a difficult time, particularly due to COVID pandemic, followed by the wars and conflicts across the region, and then that hampered a lot to the landlocked economy like Nepal. So I just want to give a brief overview of what we were doing before pre-COVID situation. So our economic growth and everything, other economic indicators was at a very good situation. But after that, it took a while to recover. It went down, the economy went down, and the growth rate, sluggish growth rate we had to face. And then now, the 2024, IMF has projected that there will be 5% growth, and the government has estimated that there will be 5 to 6% growth. That means our economy is getting momentum. That is due to the reform policies of the government of Nepal. So that are focused on policy reforms, procedural reforms, and many other areas where we have to look into. And then we have applied stringent monetary policy that also helped a lot to shape and to bring the economy to this stage. The other important factors that contributed to our economy is the energy sector. Energy, Nepal has huge potential of energy and hydropower generation capacity. So that is one area where I will discuss later. I think I have another topic to discuss later on. And we have also agricultural sector that we put focus on. And likewise, we have tourism sector that also has come to pre-COVID situation now. So our tourism is coming back, and also other macroeconomic indicators such as foreign reserve exchange, and then remittance inflow, and the inflation. We have control over inflation also. So I think all those indicators have given good impression. So our economy is on the right track. There are many areas where we can focus on and then integrate into the regional development also and in the region. I think in terms of other areas such as migrant workers, and that is also another part that is also contributing a lot to our economy. So I think those are the basic macroeconomic indicators which have shown good and positive results, positive indication to our economy, and that gives us a good boost to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lamsal. Perhaps I should turn to Ambassador Masud bin Momen of Bangladesh. Sir, I'd like to, of course, give you the opportunity to also fill us in and talk to us a little bit about how the Bangladesh economy is doing. But also let me dive into this whole issue of South Asian economic integration. South Asia is looked upon as one of the least integrated regions of the world as compared to the European Union, or compared to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or compared to the North America Free Trade Agreement area, which is Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Intra-regional trade in South Asia is a mere 5% of total trade, and intra-regional investment is a mere 1% of total investment. So if I could request you to also talk to us a little bit about the Bangladesh economy, how it's doing, and what should we be doing to increase trade and investment amongst ourselves within the region. Ambassador Momen, please.
Thank you, Ambassador Gautam, convener of this Asia-Pacific dialogue, and also the President and the Vice President of PIC in presence and dignitaries, and also my fellow panelists, Foreign Secretary of India and Nepal. First of all, I'd like to thank PIC for inviting me in this important forum which is being held regularly now. And why not Davos in Pune? As you have rightly mentioned, intra-regional trade in South Asia is one of the lowest, perhaps slightly over 5%, maybe 5.8%, whereas the EU is 27% and ASEAN is 15%. Now, there are many reasons we have to look back. If we go back before 1947, the whole area was, of course, seamlessly connected. But now it's a totally different scenario geographically and politically. As far as Bangladesh economy is concerned, as you'll be happy to know that currently it is the 35th largest economy in the world, although the land mass is very small. And we have a population of 170 million with a thriving middle class. And the growth rate that we have been experiencing, apart from the couple of years with COVID, it was more than 7%. Now it is a little bit of over 6%. And we will be the 9th largest consumer market by 2030. So these are quite impressive numbers if you consider our past and our history. And today it is a $480 billion economy. Now, how to navigate in this era of flux, and Bangladesh is also being affected. First, of course, with the COVID, and then the Ukraine war, as mentioned, and the Gaza crisis, and the Red Sea, disturbances of supply disruptions, and the triple F problem that was mentioned by Ambassador Kwatra, the food, fertilizer, and fuel. Because we import most of our fuel and a lot of our fertilizer from other sources. Given this scenario, we have one advantage to our side, and that is we have the advantage of numbers. Whatever big infrastructure projects we have undertaken so far, they're already being paid up. I mean, just give one example. The Padma multi-purpose bridge, which is a 6.5-kilometer long bridge, built entirely with our own resources, $3.6 billion. It was a very bold and courageous decision by Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And it has connected almost 8 of the districts in the south with millions of people living there. And it is said that, of course, it is to be seen and proved that it will add 1% plus to our GDP. That means we were growing at the rate of 6.5 or 7%, so it could be around 7+ percentage points. Now, I often talk about this opportunity that with our Bangladesh population, and of course India has a huge population, and Nepal and Bhutan being landlocked in our region, and 7 states of Northeast India, which are also landlocked. So if we consider this whole region, and then if we can improve the connectivity, not just the physical connectivity in terms of railway networks or road networks, but also the ancillary services, the customs points, the immigration points, and all the border arrangements. If we can have that, plus the people-to-people connectivity, the grid connectivity, and also internet connectivity. So given all these connectivities, if we can put dots and connect the dots, then I was once upon a time a student of economics, so I can easily show that there is potential of adding 2 or 3 percentage points. So it is not a pipe dream that our Prime Minister has been telling, that by 2041, the 70th year of our independence, we can reach a sort of developed country status. It is theoretically possible. Of course, again, first year economics, ceteris paribus, that we don't have no more, COVID-like situation or other external shock. Energy can be another point which can be highlighted. Bangladesh's current production capacity is about 25,000 megawatts, but with to sustain the 7% economic growth, we will be having a lot of demand, and the demand estimates are about 60,000 megawatts by 2041. So obviously, we ourselves will not be able to produce that kind of energy, given the fact we don't have much gas or oil or coal. Therefore, we have to look beyond the geographic limits. One good opportunity is Nepal and Bhutan. Their combined potential capacity is about 70,000 megawatts. So obviously there is enough to go around. Already we are importing some from Tripura and some from Nepal, but with proper transmission lines over India, we can have a win-win situation for all of us. And another point I'd like to just highlight that we are building a number of seaports. One at Matarbari, which is a deep sea port, and Matarbari to the northeastern states, say Tripura, not very far. There is this Feni Moitri Bridge, which was inaugurated jointly by Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So from there, you can easily come to Matarbari, and northeastern state traders have shown a lot of interest to use that port. So with northeastern states, with Nepal and Bhutan, so it would be again another very lucrative proposition for all of us. So there are, and then there are waterways and other means also for taking goods through the waterways up in the rivers from Sylhet to from Kumilla to other Indian states. With the kind of leadership vision that currently being displayed both by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and Prime Minister Hasina, Modi ji mentioning that this is a kind of a golden chapter in our history. So obviously, if we can do our best in utilizing all these, there are a lot of hope for not only Bangladesh but for the entire region or the sub-region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Momen. And thank you very much for your proactive and optimistic outlook that South Asia could become a region which is very well connected, which is very well economically integrated. Ambassador Kwatra, you mentioned India's neighborhood first policy, and India is also a major, it provides development assistance to its neighboring countries. So could I request you to describe our neighborhood first policy, to talk a little bit about it, and also if you could share with us some of the big success stories of development assistance that India has done in its immediate neighborhood. Ambassador Kwatra.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Bambawale. Before I come to that, let me go to the opening point that you made with regard to the extent of intra-regional trade, 5%, or and that too in a comparative frame of reference vis-a-vis ASEAN and Europe. I would not disagree with you that that is definitely one frame of reference in which one can examine whatever is happening in terms of, I would say, economic cohesion within South Asia. That definitional view essentially then takes you to certain outcomes that the particular view would want, which is smooth flow of goods, services, capitals, more integrated, deeply integrated supply chains within the region. That's the outcome that from that frame of reference you would reach if you were to take that into account. I think the way it is happening in the region and in South Asia, and especially if you look at the evidence of it, we are in a way approaching it from a different direction, which is that we are directly focusing on the outcomes. Perhaps in the process, not necessarily being purist about the definitional aspect of it. And this happens at multiple levels. This happens in our bilateral relationships within South Asia. It also happens in the regional institutional frames of reference. Contrary to what people would think, many of these achievements that the regional associations have been able to succeed in obtaining have been greatly instrumental in forging a stronger South Asian connectivity. So if I was to take forward what my colleague, Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, spoke about connectivity, and I'm taking this as the first element of Prime Minister's neighborhood first policy approach. When we look at South Asia, when we look at our neighborhood first, I think it's at three levels. The first is a level of belief that we have in it. And the key anchor there is the people. The people centricity of whatever we do. Second is at the policy level. We come to then neighborhood first policy. And third is the implementation, that how this belief through policy then gets implemented across various domains. And one of the domains which Foreign Secretary Momen referred to is the connectivity domain. Now, when you look at connectivity within our region, you will probably find it essentially of four types, basically. One, the physical one, infrastructure, rail links, road links, etc. The second, which is probably a newly emerging space, is domain connectivity. So, for example, Foreign Secretary Momen spoke about power trade. I can give you a very real-life example, and my colleague, Foreign Secretary of Nepal, will testify to that. 2 years ago was a very significant landmark point in India-Nepal relationship, when for the first time, 2.5 years ago, I think, the first project was approved under the CBT guidelines of India, allowing Nepal to export 30 megawatts of power to India. It was just 2.5 years ago, not long ago. Why I say this to be a significant landmark? Because till then, hitherto, Nepal had been a net importer of power from India. That was the first time that Nepal exported 32 megawatts of power. And I remember at that time, the general perception was that, look, it's only 32 megawatts, so we'll see how this goes in. On today's date, when we speak, Nepal is exporting to India in excess of 600 megawatts of power. This is just in last 2.5, 3 years. And this is a classic example of how the power trade, which is a regional trade incidentally, because a lot of power gets sold on the IEX exchange in India. So it is not a G2G purchase. It is a purchase which is made by a private sector player in India, and supplier is a private sector project in Nepal. We similarly have gone through an experimental phase wherein I think we are looking at a pilot phase of power being exported from Nepal to Bangladesh through the Indian grid. precisely the example that Foreign Secretary Momen spoke about. And I think there's a crucial piece which is missing in this, which is important for us to fill that gap, which is the transmission line network. So between India and Nepal, for example, we have a fairly extensive high voltage transmission network which allows power evacuation to take place on both sides. And this is not a function of border restrictions, tariff problems, etc. If we were to build similar evacuation infrastructure facilities between India and Bangladesh, you will suddenly find that not just power trade between India and Bangladesh would increase, power trade in our entire region would jump exponentially, I would say. We are all aware that we are also looking to build grid capacities between India and Sri Lanka, not just of power, but also of the product pipelines, and if all goes well, even the land bridge border connectivity. So connectivity, is of domains also. A newly emerging field is financial connectivity, and the market spaces in the region being linked through e-commerce. So for example, I think there is currently an arrangement between two private sector players between India and Nepal, where the products of each other e-commerce websites can be sold on the other website. And since the supply chains, at least on the land border countries between India, Nepal and India, Bangladesh, are reasonably well connected, the cost of logistics is not an issue. The third thing is more in the services space, which is happening, is in the fintech interoperability. Whether it is through the rupee-based trading platforms, which is yet to take off in a major way, but on a pilot basis, yes, but also the financial payment platforms, the way they speak to each other. So there is there are new emerging spaces. The Startup Connect, there is a fair bit of robust connectivity between the startup ecosystem in the countries of South Asia and India. And it is mutually reinforcing. It's not a government is only an enabler. It's all done and led by the private sector. I mentioned people. People are central to this connectivity, and our effort is that there should be not just seamless movement of goods, capital, technology, services within South Asia, but of course, the people first and foremost. There is a last element of connectivity which I should point out, which Foreign Secretary Momen hinted to in terms of what's going on in Bangladesh, which is connectivity enhancement and building within the country as it links to the region. So India's massive thrust on building connectivity with northeast of India, that automatically then gives a different paradigm jump to the way we connect to the in terms of our Act East initiative and approaches. The rails network is another one. We are trying to go back to roughly pre-independence 6 rail line network between India and Bangladesh, 2 railway line networks between India and Nepal. We are working on 2 with Bhutan also. We are also looking at increasingly a space of connectivity which refers to regulatory convergence in terms of the trade systems. In case of at least Nepal and Bangladesh, the petroleum product pipelines, which have enormously brought in economic efficiency gains when it comes to trade in petroleum and petroleum products. So the result is all of this has reduced itself into specifics, which is what the outcome of a definitional framework is, which is that the regional supply chains within South Asia are now better connected in terms of the trade flows, the capital flows, and the market linkages. There is ease of mobility. I won't say quantum of mobility, I'll say ease of mobility of goods, services and capital. Creation of economic gains, it is quite sort of natural in this. You talked about the development partnership template that we have. It is a very essential and a crucial element of India's neighborhood first policy. So roughly 50% of our lines of credit and pretty much 80% of our grant expenditure which goes out is dedicated as part of neighborhood first policy. I would expand this to the maritime domain of neighborhood first and probably include Mauritius also in this segment. I referred to ICPs in the beginning. I think this is again something which must be flagged. We currently have 7 ICPs that are in place working. We are constructing 2 more and there are 13 more in pipeline.
ICPs are integrated check posts.
Integrated check post. And I'll give you one example. In 2014, if you look at India's trade figures with Bangladesh, India's trade figure with Nepal, I think India's trade figure with Nepal was roughly around $4 to $5 billion, and I think with Bangladesh it was 6 to 7. The numbers are now tripled pretty much in the last 10 years. And a lot of this is because of these integrated check posts, which bring in trade efficiency gains, the quantum of trade increases, new market for products get created where there was none initially. And I will take this and then take you to what's happening institutionally. Many people forget that the SAFTA agreement, South Asian Free Trade Agreement, and the SATIS, what we call South Asian Trade of Agreement in Services, which was more based on the GATS platform, was one of the first institutional arrangements within South Asia that allowed for tariff-free movement pretty much on agreed tariff lines within the region. Of course, in case of India-Nepal, India-Bhutan, it didn't apply because India-Bhutan treaty and India-Nepal treaty were SAFTA plus or SATIS plus in that nature. But there are institutional mechanisms in place, and now more of them, BIMSTEC, BBIN, which essentially lead to those objectives which one would want to see in a more integrated, cohesive, a connected region. So terminologically, I will say a more connected South Asia. So connected region, connecting people, that's the central thing behind neighborhood first, and linking, of course, prosperity of each other into a regional prosperity context.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Kwatra. So my takeaway is that things are looking very, very positive. The groundwork and the infrastructure is being laid for a more integrated, economically integrated South Asia, and even where trade and investment is concerned, between India and Nepal. Ambassador Kwatra also spoke about this, and with Bangladesh also. So could you speak a little bit more about energy cooperation, hydropower cooperation, how it has developed in the last few years? Ambassador Kwatra just mentioned a few statistics on this, but could you explain to us how hydropower cooperation and energy cooperation between India and Nepal and India, and also with other parts of South Asia, has developed in the last few years?
Thank you very much. I would also like to speak something about connectivity. Of course, our region is a region of hope, region of happening things. So it gives a lot of attention to a lot of people for so many regions. So we have huge potential. So you have potential of hydropower, potential of water resources, potential of agriculture, potential of human resources. We have active and then young youth population, young population. That is another asset we have that we are yet to capitalize, I think. And then we have also we have tried to get connected in the region, but in my view, I think the whole of connectivity is yet to harness. That means connectivity by road, by air, by rail, infrastructure, by investment, by business, by trade, and so on. Because we have to see whole of the connectivity, and that's how we will be fully connected, and we can share our prosperity between us. I think this region, no need to say that we are less integrated, but I think this is the right time when we have to also reflect on why we are less connected. So that why is very important in my view. So let's also reflect on that part, and then just move forward collectively for our collective prosperity. Definitely, Nepal treasures huge potential of hydropower and water resources. We have started, actually the last Prime Minister, our Right Honourable Prime Minister visit actually gave the policy space, and by which we could able to sign MOU in January last month. That is about long-term power trade agreement of 10,000 megawatt within 10 years time. That is huge foundation in our relationship. So, but the point is timely implementation of the agreement is very important. Likewise, we have also inked to export 40 megawatt electricity to Bangladesh. We are working on that. That is another big step that we have taken recently, and that is, I think, a sustainable way of integration. When we talk about integration, that is also very important, because we have to look into our trade deficit, our people's. I mean to say connectivity in regards to people's mobility. So our region also treasures cultural heritages. We have colors, we have peoples, we have culture, we have shared values, shared beliefs, and then shared festival. We have a strong soft power. So we can also connect through those soft powers, and also other areas. For example, financial integration, complete financial integration, and also we have policy space. We have so many policies that we are yet to give shape, and then through that we can get benefit of it. So we have to believe in collective prosperity. So I think we are in that regard. We are heading towards that direction, but we have to give a little more attention to that part. I think we are doing little by little, but if we really carry the spirit of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That means if we integrate whole of our South Asian, our region's potential, that means we will get better and more. So I think we have to focus on that. And also we have one of the world institutions, regional institutions we have. We also have to utilize those infrastructure, those space, those structures as well. So, for example, SARC, BIMSTEC, and other BBIN. We have also EC mode. There are many other such organizations where we can work together, because if we talk about sustainable development goals, this is the reason where sustainable development, achievement of sustainable goals is very important, so that the poverty alleviation and the goals and targets of sustainable development goals will also be achieved. I think being a landlocked country, we highly value connectivity, connectedness, and connection. So in that regard, we are looking forward to work with our neighbor, India and Bangladesh. We have started that engagement, and I think based on that, we will do more in the future, and we have huge scope on expanding that. I think that is the preliminary remarks that I want to just add on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Lamsal. I turn to Ambassador Momen, and you mentioned BBIN, which is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, and connectivity between these four countries. I'd request you to talk a little bit about this idea. I don't think there are many in this room who are aware of it, so I'd like you to speak a little bit about it. But also I'd like to ask you about BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal multi-sectoral economic cooperation project, and if you could help us in understanding both these ideas.
Thank you, Ambassador Gautam. I mean, these are not new ideas. BBIN has been in the offing for some time now. Bhutan had some hesitancy, so we decided to move along, and when Bhutan is comfortable, they can always join. So I think...
is this purely road connectivity, or it also expands to railways?
It's mostly road network, the mutual agreements that are required for recognition of the driving licenses and the physical movement of trucks and other vehicles. So I think next month we'll be having a conference, big conference in Dhaka, to push forward this idea, and hopefully by this year we should be able to see its implementation, at least amongst amongst India, Nepal and Bangladesh. You mentioned BIMSTEC, but before that I would just like to say and touch upon the SAFTA and SAFTA Plus that was mentioned by Ambassador Kwatra. And the least developed countries amongst the South Asian countries, namely Bhutan, Nepal and Bangladesh, they benefited a lot because of the exemptions and the facilities that was provided by India, and as a result, as was also mentioned, that now the bilateral trade between India and Bangladesh is 16 billion plus, and growing all the time. Initially, Bangladesh export to India was a little less, but that is also now picking up. So, and for that we are grateful. But now that the neighbors of India are also graduating from the LDC category, namely again Bhutan, Nepal and Bangladesh, so we have to look forward to working on new arrangements with Bangladesh. The SEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, is also being talked about. So in the coming months and if not years, we should be able to do this, so that when we officially graduate by 2026, and then some of the support measures will be taken out by European Union and others in 2029. So this transition we have to work double time so that it remains a more smooth operation. As far as BIMSTEC is concerned, we are going to assume the chairmanship of BIMSTEC hopefully in November. And we have a new Secretary General, an Indian diplomat, senior diplomat, Ambassador Indra Pandey. And we have been discussing, how Bangladesh's chairmanship will take this organization forward. And since we host the Secretariat, so we have already started our own brainstorming sessions, and we have from BIMSTEC, there is this eminent persons group. They also held their first meeting in Dhaka, so hopefully they can submit their vision of reform or revitalization of BIMSTEC, which is now, I think, crossing the adolescence. So now we should take advantage of this. So we have some ideas already, like we should be concluding the operationalizing the BIMSTEC FTA, which is there again for some time. Formal launching of the Blue Economy Action Plan and activating or mobilizing the Blue Economy Expert Group. Finalization and implementation of the Agreement on Maritime Transport Cooperation. Operationalizing the grid interconnectivity and regional energy trade with emphasis on renewable energy. And also, as was mentioned by Ambassador Kwatra, the introduction of cross-border digital economy or digital platform networks and gateways. I mean, bilaterally India is doing it, but maybe as a group, BIMSTEC can provide that platform. These are some of the ideas that we will be pushing, and also the idea that India is the lead country for security, energy issues. Bangladesh, trade and investment and development. Nepal, people-to-people contact. So we can form, subgroups or groups who wants to push particular ideas amongst all the other issues. And there are new issues like circular economy mentioned by Ambassador Kwatra, solar alliance, disaster resilience and prevention of pollution, youth-centric programs and skill development, as was mentioned by my Nepali counterpart. So all these, contours can be fully utilized, hopefully, in the coming years. Last but not the least, I would also like to mention, as taking clue from Ambassador Kwatra, that India has been helping its neighbors through the line of credits. A lot of projects have been taken, but we have also seen there are some, delays or constraints or bottlenecks in the disbursement and the implementation. And when Honorable Foreign Minister Jaishankar met our Prime Minister recently in Munich, he mentioned that we can always revisit some of these old projects which were not implemented. So aligning the priority of the two countries and also thinking of the greater picture that we have in mind. So that could be Bangladesh being one of the largest, I think, recipient of the LOC. So again, thanks to India. And we have seen how India's policy of neighborhood first works firsthand when Bangladesh was invited in the G20 forum and the framework, and we tried our best to come with our experience of the development trajectory that we have envisaged. So I think we have the right kind of leadership amongst us. So it is up to us, the diplomats, and also the private sector and the business to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have completely run out of time for this session, so I'll bring it to an end. But my main takeaway, and I don't know if all of you agree with me, is that a lot is being done to economically integrate our region, which is South Asia. And thank you very much, Ambassador Kwatra, Foreign Secretary of India, Ambassador Lamsal, Foreign Secretary of Nepal, Ambassador Momen, Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, for coming to Pune. We have a much better understanding of our region thanks to all that you have said. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you to the audience for listening so patiently. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Can I just ask Ambassador Gautam Bambawale to offer a small token of appreciation to each of the ambassadors on the stage, please? So if I could first ask Ambassador to give a small token